Welcome back to the Joe Miller Show, KON Hot Talk, 1080 AM, 95.1 FM. This show is made possible by the McPherson Tax Defense Group. 1-800-BEAT-IRS, beatirs.com. That's B-E-A-T, IRS. Serving Alaskans, Americans since 1978 with 2 generations of tax defense attorneys. I have online with me Joe. He's called into this program before. He's a student in the Alaska public school system, and he's disgusted. He said, Joe, I want to be on your program. I want to tell people about what's going on. Joe, welcome back to the Joe Miller Show.
Hey, Joe. Glad to be back on. Yeah, I just wanted to let some of the parents know what their kids are being taught and is being pushed down their throats every day in the public school system.
So let me just ask you, it's not, from your perspective, a pure educational environment. Are you being indoctrinated? Is that what you're trying to say? I
feel that, and it's not just me who feels this way, and you get a lot of hard examples of it too. I don't feel like I learned there. I feel, maybe one class or 2 class, you get a teacher that, isn't biased. But the majority of your classes, the teachers seem to just have this bias agenda that they want to push on you, and they don't want to teach you facts. They want to teach you very biased ideologies.
Do you have any examples of that?
Yeah, I actually have a very good one to start things off.
All right. Tell us about it.
In economics class, you would think that you learn about economics. You learn how markets work, what the roles of a citizen, Most of the kids who take that are juniors and seniors. They're about to be adults. They're about to be, grown members of society. They should know how markets work and what our roles in markets are. Learn about the economy. But instead, we spent a month and a half learning about global climate change, and that it was one of the number 1 major world economic problems.
So when you say a month and a half, are you saying that that's what you were learning exclusively over a period of almost, maybe more than 6 weeks?
Everything we learned was based on this and revolved around this in economics class. And
wow.
What I have a problem with right now in a government class, I actually landed a very good teacher. And everyone in this class is a senior, and there were some people who did not know the difference between socialism and communism and capitalism. And I don't see how you can, pass economics class and not even be able to define the difference between capitalism and communism. It doesn't make sense to me, except that the fact that they're not, you're not exclusively studying economics. You're studying a little bit of economics and a lot of liberal ideologies, and I'm talking, very socialist ideologies, and you're studying, very little actual real economics in there. And that's how, kids are passing these classes without really learning any information on the actual subject.
So, let's focus on global climate change for just a minute. You can study global climate change, although I think you're right. I think it's arguable that economics should not be focused on global climate change for, a quarter of its class time.
It's only a semester-long class. It's not a year-long class. This is a semester-long class, and that's a good chunk of that semester.
Yeah, probably more like a third of it. And one could argue, well, look, if you're going to look at it in an unbiased way, I suppose you could do good lesson plans. But are you suggesting to our listeners that there was a particular
totally
perspective
biased.
used?
It was not taught, that this could be this way. This is one of the major economic world problems. We will have issues if we do not address climate change. If we do not, watch what people are using as fuel, this is going to destroy our, world and all this stuff.
Did you push back at all?
Yeah, I spoke out and said, well, a lot of this stuff has not been scientifically proven, and I kept being told by the instructor, well, that's not the argument here. It already has been proven. The argument is to what degree this will affect our economy. And I said, no, a lot of this stuff has not been proven. He said, this went back and forth for about 3 or 4 minutes, literally, this exact conversation. I said, this has not been scientifically proven that we're having this, drastic global warming.
Doesn't that concern you? When you are in an academic environment where there's a predicate that they will not allow to be challenged, what do you think that does to learning?
it makes it not learning anymore. Learning, you're during high school, you're supposed to grow. You hear two sides of the story, with, just non-biased, and you make a decision on yourself. Well, when you're only taught one side of the story, that ends up being the only somewhat educated decision you will, or that is the only education you will base your decision off of. So they're not teaching, a non-biased way. They're teaching totally biased. And I feel, when kids are, 18, 19, 20, and they go to vote, this is all they're thinking of, everything in the economy is about global climate change. Well, whichever candidate talks about this is all I know. This is the only schooling I have. Whoever talks about this has my vote. And that's, I think, how they're doing it. They're going after my generation to try and push all these ideologies on the younger people so that when we grow older and we start, my generation starts to run the country, this is all we know and this is what we fall back on.
Are there any other sacred cows that and when I say sacred cow, I mean, I'm talking about these ideas that can't be challenged in class. Can you think of anything else throughout your educational experience over the last year that's been treated in the same way as global climate change?
Well, definitely homosexuality plays a big role in our school. You see constant posters about it. And when same-sex marriage has been brought up in class, the very small minority of teachers, allow you to do your argument. A lot of other teachers, if you start an argument that is against same-sex marriage, you're instantly, you're the outcast. You're the bigot, and whatever you say is just flat out wrong. That's another big one that is very prevalent in the Alaska public school system.
Have you made any attempts to challenge that?
Yes, I have over the last 4 years at the high school I attend. And each one, you're shut down so immediately if you spark this conversation with 90% of the teachers. You mention it, you're just instantly, there's no real time to argue. It's just, you cannot talk about this. You're going to offend someone. Stop being this way. Don't be a bigot. And you're just instantly shut down. And they hang posters over the school that have the rainbow flag on them and always advertising this stuff. They even had an announcement of the LGBT-word-of-the-week. My mom told me, of stories in a public school when they would say prayers in the morning announcements when she went to high school. And now they're, having words like transgender is the word of the week. And it's like, how did we go from praying to our Lord to this in the morning announcements at school? It just baffles my mind that people could make that much of a drastic change.
And I would assume that all references to God are pretty much sanitized. I mean, can you even talk about God? Is there any discussion about God?
The teachers can't. The teachers are not supposed to talk about God. That does not stop some from talking about Islam, though. Christianity is kind of, that's kind of swept under the rug. But if you want to talk about another religion, now you're just studying it. God is very much hushed up at school. I mean, I do know some of my fellow students also, I wear a cross every day. Some of them wear a cross, but teachers are going to look at you a little different. Some of them, I've had one teacher make remarks to me about Catholics because I was wearing a cross and mocking Catholics in front of the class and laughing about it. And so God is kind of almost shunned in schools.
You challenge some of these sacred cows or you bring up God. Are you risking your position in the school? I would assume that with respect to homosexuality, transgenderism, that kind of thing, that there probably are policies in the school that if you speak critically, you can actually be suspended.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, do you ever fear that, or what's going on in that realm?
The thing is, I was always taught to do what is right. So a lot of times I'm thinking, I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but it's the right thing to say. And so many kids in our school they're so scared to say anything if they don't believe it, they kind of keep their mouths shut. They don't speak out against it because they're afraid of what the school system will do, what force they'll, bring down the hammer with. Me personally, I believe, I'm going to say what's right over what they want me to say because that's just who I am. But I think parents need to start standing up more for the kids who don't want to get in trouble, and they really, they care if the school says bad about them or suspends them. And I think those are the kids who really need to, we need to help them out, because so many kids there, you can see it. I've seen it in science class when this teacher is just bashing God left and right, and you have 5 or 6 kids there who you can see, wearing a cross, hanging their head down, don't want to say anything, because if they say any argument that is for God, they're just going to be shunned by this teacher and told they're wrong, and the teacher's going to try and make a fool of them in front of the class, so they end up staying quiet.
Well, I appreciate the stand that you're taking, Joe, and also relating what's going on within the 4 walls of the public schools in Alaska. It's troubling. People need to pray for the folk that are there. Of course, also make a stand for the teachers that are doing the right thing, for the kids that are doing the right thing. I always appreciate having you on the air, though, to fill us in. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
Stay with us. The Joe Miller Show will be right back.